Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast, episode number 78. My name is Rob Curtis. I am here in the PSIMET studio, joined today by
Leah Sanda.
or with
Tim Strelecki.
Kenny Labbe.
And out there in Colorado on Electric Land,
Mike Friedman.
There we go. A lot of people know Kenny. Kenny's joining us. He had an opportunity to join us again today. You were on some of the first podcasts of this about 6 years ago or so, yeah?
4, 5, and 6. Come on now.
Episode 4 or 5. It was actually just one session.
Right. There was that
we had to break up into 3 that still ended up, I think, being almost 2 hours apiece.
Sorry.
Something like that. No, it was a great day.
I heard you got
awesome.
like a podcast overage fees. I probably owe you.
Whatever. What were we talking about just before this started? Everybody was just going off on like everything.
There was just this question of like
Hair
everybody's
shaving.
first
leg
shaving experience.
First leg shaving experience. All right, you brought it up, so now you got to cover it. What was your first leg hair shaving
I didn't have
experience?
hair on my legs for like my first 30, 35 years because I was a bike racer as a teen. And so when it started to come in and I saw breaking away and he was in the bathroom shaving his legs, that scene is iconic in the movie. The poster's right behind Leah there. I didn't really know how to go about it, so I was just down in the basement with a Bic lighter, just the little soft hair of a 14-year-old, just holding it vertically, the leg. I didn't burn my skin, but I could just singe the hair off.
That had to have been the worst smelling basement in the history
Good
of.
Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, Paul Dooley comes out of the room, like he sees Dave like doing his thing, comes out of the room and goes, "He's shaving." Yeah, so his legs. Yeah, that was kind of my experience. I'm pretty sure I tried like a depilatory cream first.
Mm-hmm.
So I used like Nair on my legs.
Yeah.
And
Don't
that
ever use
actually
it on
worked.
your balls, ever.
I will take your advice and not try that. But that's what I did. It worked perfectly for me. It just smelled horrible. That was the only problem. That
smells
it was
pretty
my
bad.
sister's and I was borrowing it, and that's kind of like weird.
3 years later, I was like 17, and my parents, I think, got me an Epilady for Christmas.
I remember wanting one of those just because all the ads. I was like, "Oh, that would be great." And then people started going, "No, it's like rips it out from the roots. You don't want
From
that."
the roots, so it grows back very slowly, which
Yeah.
is what you want. And they said by the 10th time that you rip it out, it doesn't hurt as much.
Sure.
I got to about 7 or 8, and I was like,
No, screw it. No, I started at 13,
Okay.
14,
Right.
shaved my legs for cycling. And I covered this in a couple episodes back that people brought up to me. So I know they heard it, but yeah, then they figured it out in 8th grade by looking at my legs that I shaved.
BMX didn't shave legs, did they?
No, but for some reason, I was like you, Rob. I was about 14 years old, and I remember I was working in this little shop down in the town that a retail shop that my sister was actually my boss, and I was like, I just got curious one day, and I actually had to work later in the afternoon. So here I am, like 14 years old. I'm like, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to shave my legs, like full wool, straight up. Didn't know about like pre-shaving or anything like that. So I just was like, okay, loaded up with the shaving foam and went for it. And I cut the shit out of my legs. Like so bad. It was the worst experience ever. And then I went to work and I was like writhing in pain. And my sister's like, "What's your problem?" I'm like, and I showed her and she's like, "Jesus Christ, what happened?" And I told her. And
What were you shaving with?
oh, it
Yeah,
was just,
good question, Leah.
my dad's shaving cream and a razor
Straight
I found.
razor?
Yeah. No,
not a straight razor, but just like a Bic.
you have to understand.
That's one of the most generic razors you could ever find.
Guys, when we learn how to shave, we learn on our faces. We kind of learn those contours. When it comes to legs,
We don't know anything.
here I am telling a woman about shaving her legs.
Mansplaining.
This is awesome.
No, I'm trying to say that as young boys who have no experience with any of it, we don't understand that the contours are different. The first time I shaved my legs with an actual razor, I did an orange peel, like potato peel, right
straight
up
up the shin.
right up the shin,
Oh,
right
I
on the
did
front
that.
of the shin.
I did that.
and
I
it
did
was
that.
just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
a light touch. You
Yeah.
want a light touch, right?
and then around the ankles. And,
It's like using the mandolin with your food. Just right
Oh,
off.
dude, the feeling of that is terrible. Then when
Yeah.
you have the flap of skin stuck in the razor.
yeah, because it goes so quickly and easily because it's
And
so
some-
sharp.
But you don't know anything happens yet because
Yeah.
it doesn't bleed immediately.
Yeah, it's like
doesn't
white,
stop.
and then it gets wet,
It
and then
never
it stings.
stops.
Oh,
Yep. Miserable
having
experience.
flashbacks.
Miserable. But
I could take it farther.
I mean,
Yeah.
You wouldn't know about that, would you? I mean,
No, I do. I remember when I first started experimenting with shaving my legs when I was young, and I didn't know if I was supposed to shave my arms too, so I did.
ooh,
And then
like the
Swimmer.
lower part of your arms and
Makes
all.
a lot of
yeah,
sense.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was just like, okay, well, this is kind of cool. I'm just going to keep going. Just kept going with it, and I think I learned later. Oh, nobody else shaves their arms. Okay, I guess I'll stop doing that.
Which doesn't make any sense. Why did you all shave your legs? What was the reason behind it?
Girls do, because it makes you, when you're young, you want to be like a woman, and grown women would shave their legs. So I wanted to start shaving my legs.
It was part of the, I would guess that it's a part of the horrible messaging that we had for women in that era. And that was a long time ago. So, it was mostly a patriarchal kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know. It
no,
was weird.
in terms of
why didn't
cycling, in terms of racing, in terms of cycling.
Why did we?
I mean, yeah, why?
Well, we've covered this before, but when you get down to the brass tacks of it, it's all about belonging. It was one of those things you learn that it's part of the culture and you do it. Everyone has their own justification and reason for doing it, they think, when they first do it. But the reality, the reason why we've stayed together with it is it's like it's becoming a part of the tribe.
Yeah, it's part of the community. Yeah, fair. Yeah, because let's face it, you can go just as fast with hairy legs. I mean,
yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You show up at the Saturday morning Harper ride, and there's 22 riders, and the two without shaved legs, the hairy legs.
Those are the ones you know
they're the worst of the bunch, which is not true.
Well,
but
that used to be the case.
Yeah.
I would argue that that's not the case anymore. There are so many people that don't shave their legs anymore that it seems almost meaningless to do it. But I don't know anybody who's a pro who doesn't shave their legs.
Yeah, for sure. The riding reasons are for daily massage, which no amateur is getting massage, and then it's crash. You're going to be doing ace bandages. You're going to be wrapping your legs, and it's a lot easier to shave your legs before a crash than after a crash.
Yeah.
So that's really why you do it.
That's why I did it.
And then there's the ancillary ones of like maybe slight aerodynamics, but no. And then if you're riding like a gritty race, your legs stay a lot cleaner, or you can wipe off with one swipe of a washcloth, so it's just a lot cleaner. And then the final one would just be vanity. I mean, when your legs are lean and fit,
it looks
veins,
good.
They look really good. Yeah.
I hit all the points, Ken.
I remember at one point in time, Julie just hated it. She was like, "I cannot stand that my husband is shaving his legs." And she goes, "It's not." I go, "Why? It's not. Who cares? I mean, you can make your own choices about your body. I can make my own choices about my body."
This is not a Lou Reed song.
And she goes, she admitted at one point, she was like, "It's not necessarily that as much as you shave them more often than I shave mine, and I don't like that."
Yeah.
Well, your hair is more coarse. I mean, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that because I don't. Everybody's different, but I imagine your hair is probably more coarse.
I'm trying to remember if Mike has ever snuck in and rubbed my legs before to kind of get an idea. But, have you met my wife? Have you been rubbing my wife's legs and you know that hers is less coarse? Or
no, I haven't. Yeah, no, but we can put that on the bucket list of items to do. I'll come out there.
I
like it. I like it.
I'll fly you out.
You'll fly him out for that. You won't fly him out for the podcast, but you'll fly him out for that.
Yeah, well, two birds, one stone. The one thing I remember, Leah, you've asked this, and I want to say you asked Mike's brother Joel. Like,
Joel.
Where do you stop?
Exactly. I'm always fascinated with where men stop shaving, because it's like, do you have hair shorts? Do you just keep going all the way up to the armpits? I mean, where do you stop?
Do you go head to toe, everything? Do you just
because it's really awkward to have no hair below your waist, but then have
woolly
a hair
boxers,
chest.
woolly bikini?
No.
I saw a picture of Alejandro Valverde one time, and he had hair shorts. I laughed my ass off. I was like, I can't believe a man of this level racing in the World Tour has hair shorts. I just thought it was great.
Get waxed.
So he had hair underneath his shorts, and he cuts it off at the thigh, and then it's just shorts.
Yeah.
But when
absolutely hysterical.
When you crash and the camera sees everything for the rest of the 30K, then you see, he's
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd stop there. I mean, you hit your hips every time you crash. I mean, most of the time,
right?
That's
where the big bandages are going to go.
Well, I would venture a guess that the argument would be it's the same belonging kind of thing. The only reason why he's even shaving up to the thigh is because he doesn't want to have hairy legs to be a pro.
No,
you got to be a part of the culture, but at the same time, he may not be super excited about shaving above or he doesn't really have to.
But in the pros, the 1 hour massage at training camp and at the stage races and any select personal training where you have a massage therapist, they're going to spend half their time on your gluteus maximus. I mean,
but what if you have a problem? Yeah. What if you have a problem with like ingrown hairs?
Yeah, I could never shave my ass. I could never do it. Yeah.
Just because you can't reach it, or?
No, because it would be so itchy. It was so itchy. It was so itchy. It was unbelievable. Every time I put shorts on,
it's tough.
The worst.
It's the worst. It's either all clean or let it go 4 days. But that 2 day in between, the
ass hair has to stay.
Prickly.
The foot hair had to stay too.
No, I went through the toes.
I couldn't. It's like
I clip the toes every now and then. Just to take a little bit off the top.
It'd be so great if someone was so hairy they just shaved like hair socks. It didn't wear socks at all, but they had hair socks.
Dude, if Valverde, we need to get Valverde on here. If Valverde has hair shorts, I'm sure he's got hairy feet.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It like caught me off guard. I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. This is terrible and fascinating in the same.
We gotta find the image. We gotta see if we can find the image.
Have you all ever seen the people that do the monkey tail beards? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Look it up on the internet sometime. But basically, it's you have a beard that comes down, it goes around the bottom and then comes around your mouth and then stops here like a tail.
But it's only one side.
It's
right?
only one side basically. It doesn't come down on the other side.
I have not seen that.
Looks hilarious. You got to check that out.
No.
But yeah,
Good.
growing weird shapes into your. I'd like to see cycling culture veer that direction with leg hair. Have people just start shaving weird stuff into their leg hair
and stuff.
Yeah.
Dude,
speaking of
this has been done. I had question marks and lightning bolts and hearts.
You have, yes.
In my chest hair. But it was my chest hair, not my fucking leg hair, though.
Yeah.
And speaking of close shaves, we're talking about the development of young riders in this country.
All right. No, yes. Okay. So you're wanting to push us.
Nice segue.
Into the topic. But so a couple days ago, 3-4 days ago, something like that, USA Cycling released more information about their current athlete development program. They have multiple programs, multiple different disciplines. I did not do the research on this one, Tim.
Yeah, I looked into it for quite some time, and basically, what I could find is there's for the disciplines of road, mountain bike, cyclocross, and track, they have USA Cycling has developed this athlete development pathway, so to speak. So it's a bunch of different buckets that riders will have, opportunities to develop their talents. First at like a local level with some day camps where, they work in conjunction with popular local events for the juniors, and then there's another aspect where they can go into something called the talent identifier. And from what I saw on that's basically just like uploading your power profile in conjunction to Training Peaks, and then coaches can go and look at that, and if they see something that catches their eye, they can go, oh, this person might have what we need or what we're looking for, and get identified that way. That one was funny to me because they had an age range on that one, in all the literature that I found, an age range of 15 to 30. That's what I saw with my own eyes. And I thought it was weird that there was an age range on that. Unlike some of the other ones where their age ranges are much lower, be it like 13 to 18 for like some of the road stuff that I looked at, like true juniors.
Yeah.
And then that can segue into like regional camps, which are basically for all athletes looking to improve their skill sets, and get just higher level coaching, working on nutrition and certainly things along those lines with all the disciplines. And then if they advance from that, they can go to Euro camps, where they get European race experience, support for those events. And that's kind of, I think that's what juniors, in my opinion, need these days. I just wish it wasn't in a fashion where the riders themselves had to go and search it out. I would like to see like USAC develop people to have the talent to go and scout these individuals. Like, some like basketball has scouts, baseball, football has scouts. They have combines, something like that. I think it speaks more to the raw talent that's out there. The people that can afford to buy their way into a program like this will get those opportunities.
Pay to play,
Yeah, the pay to play like we've always been talking about. But I think, for the person that doesn't have the capital to get into a program like this, there's a lot of talent that's out there that doesn't have those means. I would like to see talent be scouted. That's what I'm saying. But either way, it's a step in the right direction.
And part of the press release that just came out, and they revised it, I think today, USA Cycling, the program is called Search for Speed. And it says they're doing like what you're just talking about, Tim, multi-stage screening process to identify key talent markers and introduce participants to track cycling. So not that the rider has to go find everything, but let's have programs in place that find riders. You throw 100 kids on bikes, they're all going to enjoy it. And then you're going to say, wow, 4 or 5 of them, those numbers are interesting.
Yeah.
Let's explore that.
Yeah.
So is that the job of the federation, or are these private entities and sponsored and local little affiliations and programs that the federation supports and backs?
I couldn't find any information on that. I think
whose job is it to develop 9 to 14-year-olds?
Well, how do we do it in other sports? We have small leagues. Think Little League.
Pop Warner
football, things like that. And talent tends to rise fairly quickly. We identify it. We move it on to all-star teams, traveling teams, different leagues, different level leagues, things like that. Now, granted, there's a lot more participants, and it's a little bit easier to do that. And there's more money, and there's more events.
But the parents are all paying the freight on all that.
Yeah.
And then the kids are selling candy bars to make sure Pop Warner League has gear for next year.
When it's a school-sponsored sport, that's a natural, because you've got the school, and then they move on to high school, and they move on maybe to college. So there's a pathway for everything.
Fundamentally, the programs in high school, the mountain bike programs, that should be just to get all high school kids exposed to riding a mountain bike.
Right.
And their mission isn't to develop like the next Olympic team.
Right.
Which I think
which is healthy.
I think that's what this program is tailored to.
Okay.
Take the steps along the way to develop the talent that can get to the Olympics.
But after that talent's been identified, or in their way of trying to identify that talent. And to your point, if we had scouts and we had people that went around and did that, we technically have regional people within USA Cycling. And I want to say at some point, that was their designated job, was to help identify talent in their regions. And over the years, that position is, I apologize if anybody's listening to this that does it, has been degraded into, just running out and making sure a promoter's happy with what's going on and solving this situation, seeing how this particular big race series is going. Is it okay? And I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're really spending much time trying to identify anything, really, and just putting out fires.
I'd agree with that.
But I don't know. I mean, you guys all 3 had experience with some sort of somebody at some point identified talent in you and did something with it.
Not me.
Wrong.
Not me. I mean,
you didn't necessarily go on to, but you worked your way on to where you guys ended up.
Yeah.
No
one ever said, hey, I identify this in you. You're going to go be this kind of racer. Maybe during my BMX career as a junior, if there was, a person doing this at the time, they would have said, look, you're really great at BMX, but what you don't know is now I'm going to take you out of this and put you in a track program, and you're going to be, a sprinter.
Or our best cyclocross racer is all of a sudden on the Olympic team pursuit team. That kind of thing where
But I never had that.
Yeah.
There was never that.
Yeah. In fairness to the track side of it, how do you do that when not only do you not have money to go around, identify everybody and everything else like that, we don't have tracks. We just don't have velodromes. Mm-hmm. They don't exist. Got a handful of them. In the country. It just seems, what do? Do you identify some talent in a young person and say, hey, I'd like for you to uproot your family and come to, LA?
I don't think you go to that extreme. I just think you sit there and you have a conversation with them about it. Like what you see in them, what could be, and go from there.
Yeah.
But at least identify it and I don't know. I don't know. That's just my vantage point.
I mean, this always comes back to there's 50, just to use another sport, there's 50 Michael Jordans. Maybe that's not true. Like, they just don't play basketball. So in cycling parlance, there's like 50 champions, but only one of them is racing, 49 don't. And if we just set up infrastructure at places and they're riding and getting tested, we can identify it, because then you can draw them into it. But for those 49 kids that right now are just riding their bike or video gaming or playing some other sport, it's very easy to identify talent now, because now we have the online stuff. The bikes that can be set up and you can look at watts. I don't know if watts at 11 really are pertinent, but there's ways to measure that enthusiasm.
I think they'd be pertinent. I think, well, from what I read briefly, just reading the article, was that you had a number of sponsors going into the Search for Speed in LA, specifically in underserved communities, is what I read as well, focusing on using the watt bike system to determine, basically instantaneous power for 6 seconds, after a 2-minute warm up. So efficiently trying to see out what you're putting out for a sprint power, which, has pros and cons to it, I think, and also, just because your numbers are high doesn't mean you're going to be a great athlete. I mean, I didn't have great numbers. Brad Huff didn't have great numbers. I went to the Olympics. Brad Huff won more bike races, was national champion numerous times, but at 11, and you can start to determine talent, but also the suffer score, in a 6-second effort, you're not determining anything other than what someone can hit for power. And then also you're leaving out all the people that could develop. You're looking at fast twitch muscle only, right? You're not looking at anything slow twitch. You're not looking at endurance. You're not looking at for the mindset for holding on to an effort. And to your point, Ken, using the online training systems, if we had a program that went around with a setup that took in some data over a period of, time, I do think you would see significant amount of stellar athletes. When I ride on Zwift or watch any of this stuff or ride on the Wahoo system and you're riding with other people, it is crazy what people can put out for power for an extended period of time. And I'm racing at a C level, and there's no possible way I could race at an A level right now. Maybe even when I was racing professionally. Because the depth that people can go to in the power per kg, watt per kg, is high. There's a lot of talent out there, but it's a numbers game. The more people you tap into, the more people you reach, the more people you can research on, the more data you're going to get in terms of who can actually be an elite level athlete. But then you have to develop that to become an Olympic level athlete, and that takes time.
Why can't you, how we used to have gold sprints? Why can't you have a and they do these exposition Zwift races, I've seen, where they'll set up a bunch of trainers at a bar, have a bunch of people get on and race whatever little segment and do their little heats and everything else like that. We always associate it with adults. We always have, some sort of a party or celebration around it. Why can't a good setup like that be put into the hands of a couple key people that go into major metropolitan areas and go around to the schools?
I'm surprised it hasn't been done yet, actually. I mean, it's such a huge audience. There's 73 million kids in the U.S. alone, and the gamification of it is fun. They do find it fun. So if you make exercise fun, and let's face it, it's a huge problem in the U.S., the amount of sugar the kids eat, the diabetes, the pre-diabetic kids, the overweight kids, it's a huge problem, and you're just identifying a change in mindset and physical activity using a bicycle via, a digital platform makes a lot of sense. That being said, I teach kids how to ride bikes, so I want them outside too. But in terms of identifying talent, you can definitely do that on the digital platform for sure.
I totally agree with that. We might be coming out of the dark ages where it was hit or miss. You stumbled across the next Greg LeMond or big name of the sport by happenstance, where you're right. If you got some kind of presidential fitness council where they do all the stretching and running, and it's just part of it is, hey, put your numbers on the bike. And in definitely metro areas, but if you got numbers of not even 73 million, if you got numbers from 2 million kids in the US, you would find 300 or 500 candidates.
The data, dude, the data speaks volumes. Without that data, and you're going to find way more than you need, right? Then you have to you have to narrow that down even.
Which really honestly probably isn't that hard to do, because some of it has to do with the kids got to like it. You can't, just because you have talent, you can't necessarily
burnout
work with it.
Right.
Yeah, you got to manage the burnout factor.
And then it seems like, the old Eastern European state school system, which we're not trying to replicate, but like by 11 or 12, you were identified, and then you were kind of put on out of class and into 3 workouts a day. Like Vyacheslav came out by 12 or 13. He was selected, and his life was 6 a.m. rollers, road ride, gym time, and then your studies around that. They said at 12 or 13, you're a state supported athlete. And, maybe... Wow. I don't know if the federation is in a really tough spot, because if you just say, okay, you're our track team, because some countries do it, we're going to dedicate 3-4 years to you. But then every 4 years, some pro riders in the pro tour, they say, oh, the Olympics are here. I think I'll hop into that.
Yeah.
And they can automatically be competitive beyond the qualification for team pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
but I don't, maybe I'm going a different direction, because I don't solely see this as an Olympic development kind of thing. I see this as actually developing our sport as an overall, developing athletes in our sport. And the track side of it's cool. Yeah, we would like to have some more depth on the Olympic track side of it. Great. But I'd rather see more people being identified as, can you imagine if you went into a high school and you had somebody like Mike standing up in front of everybody, talking about his experiences, and then that whole week during the PE class that everybody is going into, they have this roller races, and for all intents and purposes, where everybody gets to ride against each other, and you very quickly can accumulate a massive amount of data.
Once a year,
and it's
that
very
elementary
easy
school,
to do
every
that.
February, they have roller week. They have roller races week.
I would love to do this. I would love to, go inspire kids to ride bike. I mean, I do that already. I do it already, but not, it would be different. It'd be a different thing to go collect data. And I think the biggest reason that Watt Bike is, or whatever the protocol they're using is, like a 2-minute warm up and 6-second sprint, is to push them through, because they're anticipating a large number of, students doing it. So that's why that, it's like, okay, what data point can we use to identify some talent? And I think it was also sprint oriented too, if I, read correctly. But yeah, that would be a fun job, to go get data.
Have 10 stations and then have a short course. And you can always do the sprint thing too, so you can identify endurance talents and stuff like that as well.
The problem with that is, one, right now they're selecting one community from what I'm reading, right? Yep. And it's, you're going to get a lot of kids. There's kids everywhere, dude. 73 million, like I said, that's a huge audience. But the other aspect of that is, what was I going to say? I totally brain farted there. It'll come back.
I think they selected Los Angeles because that's where the Olympics are.
Velodrome. Well, the velodrome is there.
Yeah.
The velodrome is there.
And that's why they chose
That's
LA.
what I was going to say. You have the velodrome, but then, right now there's the road racing in general, and I guess they're focused on track, and that's why that, they're focusing there, which makes a lot of sense. But, there's not much racing. So what are you selling the kids on? Just the Olympics? Mm-hmm. Just Worlds? What are you selling them on?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. But you can't tell me if you couldn't identify some talent and you got, I don't know, a handful of kids, and you start talking to them and you've got an effective presentation to show them what racing is like, somebody in there is going to be like, I like that.
If you can get one person, one kid out of that, that's a win.
That's a win, because right now we're getting 0 kids out of that. We got to think about the reality of cycling as a sport. The reason why anybody does it is because they stumbled onto it. You know what I mean? We don't recruit people. We don't drag them in. The people that do are those of us who talk people in like it's a cult, and we just rip them off the streets, kidnap them, and throw them on bikes and say, no, you're going to love it. Trust me, you're really going to love it. And, we keep some retention from that. But the reality is we don't have a program to introduce people to the sport. The people that come through it, are either amazing natural talents that just happened to have been put in the situation where they tried a bike race. You think of the Le Mans, you think of Hampstead, and all that. They just happened to be in a situation where they owned a bike, they saw a race, they thought it was cool, and they got on, they did it.
I think a race went in front of Le Mans' house in Reno or something, and his dad was a skier, and he was a skier, and they're like, what's this? And I want to do that. I think there's that if the race doesn't go by the front of their house, he's not hooked. He's not hooked to it. So
it's the exposure to it, it's having it. And then you look at some of the younger development to the pay-to-play aspect that we have in the sport. The development programs that we have are usually hey, it's going to be held in this area. We'd like to see you if you think you're interested in it. Already we have biased the selection because we're only talking to people that are have already found the sport, have already decided that they like this niche thing, and what's more, they want to move up in it, and they have the money to consider going to it or being a part of it. We have refined and reduced our options so much at that point that we get what we get.
So we have to have our eye on the prize. Is our goal to make 4 or 12 athletes that are Olympic medal capable or competitive in 4 or 6 years, 2028? Or is our goal to just have tens and thousands of people that are active in riding and maybe competing, but using a bike on a daily basis?
I don't think they're independent.
I saw a meme probably a week or two ago, and just to paraphrase it, it was something like, how there's the controversy of e-bikes, like it's really coming on strong, people are using it, and there seems to be like this kind of like resentment in the cycling community because people are riding e-bikes. But the meme very simply explained that really every person that's on an e-bike, that might be considered one less car on the road. It's not one less person in our sport of cycling. It's one more person in our sport of cycling, but they're one less car on the road. And so the more people that ride, the more people that ride their bikes to school, those big groups of packs of kids that ride to school, the school buses for bike riding, high school competitive programs, places that set up like a little speed week. Maybe they just test like we theoretically are dreaming of where you can just actually harvest data from all the kids.
No, I get it, but it's like e-bikes are a completely different.
Oh yeah, I don't mean to derail it, but my point is we have this resentment because that's not a real bike. You're not pedaling, but no, they're a person not in a car.
But I don't think it's a 1-to-1. I don't think we get new people in the sport. I don't think that we necessarily everybody on a bike is a good thing as far as what we're talking about.
Right.
I think we all love to see more people on bikes, and we like the advocacy. We like people looking.
Yeah, we want freaking Amsterdam.
But when we're talking
streets
about
clogged with like traffic jams of bikes,
and that in and of itself will generally generate more athletes that want to compete. But because that's one front. We're definitely always going to work on that front. I think on the athlete front and identifying it, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. In other words, if we're doing this ID where we go through and we put all these kids through this program, we may end up with 10 that go, hey, that's right. I don't have a bike. Because we're running into generations now that never owned a bike, that their parents never bought them a bike and they've never ridden a bike.
So many people can't ride.
Yeah. We may end up with 10 that go, holy crap, that was kind of fun. I would like a bike and ask for a bike. That's a win. That's cool.
Let's talk about.
But on the talent ID, we still are able to identify those that just have a natural athletic talent that works itself well in the cycling sphere. Granted, it's a very short test, whatever, hard to identify everybody, but we're going to identify a hell of a lot more than we got now.
They should do something like they do. Have you guys are familiar with the Zwift Academy? You guys know what that is?
I know the concept, and I know.
So basically, it's a filter system where they filter out, and then both male and female get to try out and get to compete for a professional contract in the World Tour through Canyon SRAM for the women's team and Alpes and Phoenix for the men's team. And that to me I've watched the last few editions of it, and it's very exciting. If you had a small program like that to identify young talent and make them actually show what they can do over a prolonged period of time versus a 6-second sprint. And then, okay, next. If you give them and have them immerse themselves in something like that for an extended period of time, then you could really identify talent, in my opinion.
Mike, would you weigh in the last 10, 15 years? It seems like the British are doing pretty good with developing multiple disciplines of cyclists. And is that a deliberate thing? Do you know anything about that?
I used to pay attention to it more. They had, what did they call it? They had, there was a name for it. And I don't know exactly what their talent identifier was, but they did poll a number of
they cast a wide net, didn't they?
Yeah, they did cast a wide net.
Yeah. Around the Olympics and everything.
Yeah. And,
but
the people they still had
in the Olympics and the Tour. They had a decade of top-level success at track and road. Now even see cyclocross now.
We'd have to go back and see who was who doing that, because like guys like Craig McLean, Chris Hoy, those guys were already racing. Cavendish was already racing. I don't know how many of those
they developed a lot of talent.
But 20 or 30 years ago, the joke with the British was all they put on were time trials, and now all of a sudden, 20 years later, they're freaking like full-fledged programs, developing youth, getting a lot involved. Now you see success, not only the track program, which is very specific,
road,
but road
big time.
and cyclocross.
Yep.
So they had a plan.
They had,
But they also have different funding sources. It comes from a lottery, I believe. It comes from, it's not the same funding source we have here. It was sponsored by the government.
They had a lot of money that came into it, and from the government standpoint, they put a lot of money into development and into programs. A lot of it was track based, and they did identify a lot of talent that came out of that era. They spent a lot of money on the tech, on bikes, and everything else, and they wanted medals, and they can put it down that that's what they wanted. But they, as the ancillary to that, they developed a very good talent identification process for that. And as a result, they've got a lot of riders that have come out of that generation that are now still even continuing.
Mm-hmm.
I think your current BMX champions in male and female elite are British. So it's not just touching the four major areas of cycling.
I'll be really interested to see what the data shows, from this search for speed. I think it's a great movement to identify, a certain level of athlete. I do think that it could be refined and grown to a larger demographic, but then, there's all kinds of other hurdles that go into that, and carrying it out and making sure you get accurate, consistent data, but then also where do you go, which is why the LA thing makes a lot of sense. That velodrome there is amazing. It's world class.
It's very specific to LA. It says the tryout process, the article goes on to say it's just getting started. The program's goals extending to 2028, the Olympics and beyond. USA Cycling is hopeful to have 700 plus participants in the local tryouts for 23 and a new field of talent ready for training in 24, and graduates on the national team in the seasons leading up to the 20 Olympics.
But this is all track.
And that's just from one city.
They're going to find out.
There's a road program too, right?
There is a road program. I did find some information. The one thing that I found in regards to a junior Devo camp, they have a camp publicized that I saw through Source Endurance, who I believe the road side has partnered with to help with this program. It's a program that's taking place over Memorial Day weekend in May for 4 days. And they have all different rides and things planned within that, but it's a camp and it's 4 days, 3 nights, and it costs $1,500 to go to. And that's down in Chula Vista, which is a suburb of San Diego. But again, it's the pay to play thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. $1,500,
you get everything while you're there, but your travel, your luggage, your bikes, none of that is paid for. So that's on them.
I only go to training camps when I get paid to go.
I never had that opportunity.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
But who knows? Again, I think it's a good thing. I think it's heading in the right direction. The intent is good. I just want to see it succeed, and I want to see USAC be transparent about it. Like what's happening with it. We've had this program out for 6 months, whatever. This is what's happening with it. Don't just hide the information. Be transparent with it so people can engage with it and ask questions about it and get excited about it. Like, don't just announce it and let the fish die.
Well, they do that. It seems like they do that, honestly, in my opinion, so that it's an old habit that USA Cycling has, and it's endemic in our culture of cycling in this country anyway. And it, to me, is the whole, I keep talking about how the value you have in this industry and in this culture is all centered on who you know and what you've been involved with. So within the first 5 minutes of any conversation, when you meet anybody else in cycling, it always delves in. Oh, I know him. Yeah, no, I rode with him back in, did you ever know this guy? What shop did you ride out of? What team are you on? That's how we size people up, and that's how we give certain people
value. Who name drops the best.
And as a result, so to take it back to the USA Cycling bit, that's where we get, I was always pissed, the race mechanics program. So they have a race mechanics certification. You have a license with USA Cycling that is a race mechanics endorsement. And you technically had to have that in order to be able to ride along in a caravan.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only that, you had to have it if you wanted, you literally had to have it if you wanted to be in the pits for cyclocross racing, for any UCI or national championships, anything else like that, World Cup events. And for years, they would list that and say that, and then it'd be like, all right, cool. I need my mechanic certification. How do I get it? Well, you just get. That was the response all the time. The reality is they would have one class session. It was at a certain time, certain date. They never told anyone except for their buddies. And then they would publicly announce it 2 weeks beforehand, 3 weeks beforehand.
Nobody
and it was a
could do
week-long thing somewhere, out west somewhere. So I would have to drop everything, shut down my business, pay to be out there for a week, to do this. But if I ever looked into it to try to book a slot, filled up because they already had their buddies already, signing up.
Yeah.
And it was like, and that's what this is. It's just a continuation of this. And the whole thing is, well, if I don't already know about you, you probably don't need to go anyway.
Yep.
And that's the way it is with the talent ID thing. So it's like, they announce stuff like this just because they're like, oh, hey, look, we got this talent ID thing.
And you would be missing out.
And they walk
Mike
away.
Talked about there's tons of potential out there. And if you're just like, oh, well, if we've not heard of you, we don't need to hear about
Right.
you. When there's probably dozens and dozens or hundreds of kids that can put out some watts.
I would venture a guess that it's not just if we haven't heard about you, then we don't need to know about you. If we haven't heard about your financial backer, we don't necessarily need to know about you. I would say it goes that far. Sorry.
I sure hope not. I sure hope not. I didn't come from that. I didn't come from that.
Did you not, though? Did you not have anybody along your journey that latched onto you and helped financially take some of that burden up?
Eventually. But early on, no. But
that's my point. They eventually, you had somebody semi-locally that identified talent in you and got behind you and helped absorb some of that financial burden.
Which also is the development thing, which leads, was my next question. He's like, okay, you identify this. Most of these kids are not going to know how to ride a bike or tactically how to ride a bike. So you can put out all the power you want. I don't care how much power you're putting out. If you don't know how to race your bike, how to pedal your bike, how to position yourself, how to breathe, how to think, you're not going to be a good bike racer.
Well, you know what? I fully agree with that statement, Mike, because I think about this one person, and when they had the esports world championship,
Not me, is
right?
Yeah.
Not right at the moment. When they had the esports world championships, right? An athlete won the male side who used to be a rower, right? He
Great athlete.
was a rower. Got a contract with Quickstep, right? Got a full-on professional contract with Quickstep. I haven't seen the guy at all.
Wow.
Well, I have asked this before because we've covered some of this in this whatever these indoor racing things that identify talent. There's been a couple of them, I think, and there have been individuals that have gotten contracts based on their results on it. And I was like, yeah. And then I've never heard anything. And then I get people that hit me up and go, oh, well, this person, they did 2 years on this team, and then they've been over on this team or whatever. What I have found is it doesn't seem, somebody correct me, because of the nature of the racing that they're doing, being indoor or electronic racing, they don't know how to handle their bikes, to your point. They don't know how to race. When they get out there, they end up getting their clocks cleaned. They end up hitting the deck. I heard that one ended up in a lot of wrecks in the first couple of years and ended up with a lot of concussions. That ended up making them leave the sport.
Exactly. And think about, like, to Mike's point, you could put out all the power in the world and be the strongest person, but if you don't know how to handle your bike, guess what? You're a danger to yourself and you're a danger to everybody that's around you.
Oh, yeah.
And that overall is big
But
red
if we
flag.
can identify 30,000 kids that are enthusiastic about the sport and 1,000 of them that actually have some talent in their legs, we can get them to put some cones in the grass and teach them how to steer a
1,000?
bike.
How about 50? Yeah. I'll take 20.
No,
we're doing that locally.
I
We found
agree,
20.
Ken. Yeah, I agree. You can take that 10,000 hours and reduce it with adequate and proper coaching, including going to school without dropping out of school. But I will go as far as to say you could take the entire Pro Tour peloton, the best of the best, and put them in online racing. And a lot of those guys don't do it because they get their asses kicked by.
Absolutely. You're fully right. You know what I think another great talent identifier would be? If there was an opportunity or a way for someone that spends multiple weekends riding in a group ride and sees this little kid that's like hanging onto the bunch, and then he progressively gets better and gets
Exactly,
better and gets
exactly.
better and gets better, and then he drops the bunch. Hey, who can I call
Yeah.
to say, hey, come look at this kid?
We used to do that.
Oh my God, that happened with Guy Delgado. I mean, Rich Delgado's brother. And we were on the Harper ride, and it's me and Mike Hagney and Eric Haley, and there's 20, 30 people every Saturday morning in 87, 88, 89. And there's just this kid, and like he's like on an Atala, and he's got like this like obscure European jersey, Cafe de Columbia.
That's not obscure.
Yeah, right.
That was
All right,
nice.
but it was just random. Like he had some stuff, but you could tell he like got it all off the discount bin or came across it, and he's hanging with us and getting stronger and stronger. And but if that's what we're waiting for, the randomness of this is like once I was like, and I went up to him one time. I'm like, hey Guy, you're really good. And he's like, how do you know what my name is? And I'm like, oh, your name is Guy. I was like, it was really cool. I was like, come ride with our club.
Yeah.
But like that's one at a time. I mean, that's like trying to build a mansion, like one brick at a day.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But he came onto the team. We taught him how to race. He already knew
That
how to
was
ride.
the thing. It was our mentorship that we had through that era, and that is what we have bemoaned leaving our sport. And I would say it's not necessarily that it's left the sport; it's that those group rides. I don't want to pick on any one particular group. There's one large group ride that I can think of that is run by a group. Somebody at this table has gone and ridden with them a lot. It's a fast group ride. No one on there races.
Right.
And as a result, no one there is like identifying people that are starting and coming up and going, hey, have you ever thought about racing? Instead, they're like, hey, you should be on our Race Across Wisconsin team. You know, hey, you should go do this completion thing with us because it's awesome. You know,
But I mean, road is dead. So like, we're going to pick out like the best talents for the future for a season that has 5 races a year. I mean, ever since road died, what's the point? What's the point of any of this?
I mean, Kurt Racing, we're down to a handful of races in the entire state for the
Mike,
entire year.
how's the racing scene in Colorado?
Dude, I don't know. I retired, so
He doesn't
I
do it
didn't
anymore.
know.
Case in point.
You have a bike reg, don't you? Bike reg?
I mean, I don't pay attention to it. I don't look for it. I'll be pinning on a number here pretty soon, but it's not, in a couple weeks actually for a race, but it's not because I'm back into racing. I'm doing it with
But you're down like 15 pounds since Christmas, so maybe you are.
Yeah, but
what's going on? I knew there was a reason.
What's going on?
I'm down 15 pounds.
Weren't
to
you
make
just
a
talking
change,
about
but-
watts per kilo?
Yeah.
Kilos going down.
You can just lie on the if you're doing e-racing, you just say you weigh 120 pounds.
No, mine. I got in a fight with a guy the other night. He called me. I said he's going to email Zwift because I shouldn't
Got
be
flagged.
in C's. Fuck you, dude. I'm a C. I can't. I'm hanging off for dear life, dude.
Right,
just because I used to race bikes doesn't mean I don't.
That's
belong
funny
in
that you
group.
say the pro tour guys. If they were to put the 1,200 riders, the pro tour, put them in the Zwift races. You're right, because their powers are in the 6th hour, not in the 1st hour. Their powers are on 3 weeks in a row of recovery. Their powers are in the not the watts and then holding it at threshold, but the reacting of tactical racing and the surges of a climb and the recovery and then the counterattacks and the bridging and all that. So yeah, the pro tour guys, if you just went up against raw numbers, would probably get blown
also
away
the psychological aspect. If you take a pro tour rider that has been paid for a job and they go and jump in a Zwift race and they're getting beat by some guy and who or woman, whoever knows where, that psychological thing can really mess you up.
Right.
I'd be really curious to see what that's like. I guarantee. And then also, it just goes to show that it's not just a numbers game. It's just it's an art form. It is an art form. Like you're not going to go hop on there is a skill set. So once you identify, and I'm telling you, that's why this test is so fast because they're anticipating so many kids. It's like, how do you identify quickly? But then what is the development factor past that, right?
Yeah.
How do you take that?
you have to have some other sort of testing as well too, and then you have to take that data and do something with it.
It would be awesome to see these middle schools, these high schools. Some of these places are huge. Their parking lots are huge. How rad would it be? The velodrome has this giant parking lot around it. Like the facility.
You could use a high school running track. It's not banked per se. It's not a velodrome.
Flat track racing. Yeah,
you can
just ride. You don't have to even race. Just ride. Let's ride. Let's go do 100 miles. Cumulatively as a group.
They made us all in gym class all do the 12-minute run, have everybody do a 20-minute bike ride twice a week.
The problem with that, though, Ken, is the bike maintenance, the bike fit, the helmet fit, all the equipment that goes with just getting kids on the bike.
In Chicago, we got bikes in Chicago that's one size fits all. Just jack the seat up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, make it super adjustable. Yeah, Specialized is doing that too, right? With Specialized Foundation.
This is a good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of putting kids on bikes. I mean, that's what I do for a living.
I think we all are.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, just because you can put numbers out on a trainer, a fixed, thing, how many kids can actually ride. There's a big difference.
Which would be easier? You got 30,000 kids, right? You're looking for 500 candidates.
You need to identify exactly.
Is it the 500? Would it be the 500 that can put out 200 or 300 watts for a little bit, or would it be the 500 that can properly do an echelon with a wind coming in diagonally from the right? Which one are you looking for?
No,
Yeah.
you have to.
You're going to look for
option
the
B all
200,
day.
300 watts.
Yeah.
You start with that,
Yeah.
and then we'll
You
get
teach the
columns
other.
and we'll teach the other.
The
And
problem.
people either have talent for it or they don't.
I agree, and I totally agree. Identify first, but the problem with that is the aspect that you're leaving out a whole audience of people that could actually get better very quickly.
But how many are we leaving out now?
All of them.
All of them.
We
Yeah.
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, agreed.
No, we got to do something.
We're starting from zero. We're starting from people that self-select in,
Yeah.
which already makes the population so much smaller.
I mean, Mike,
But that-
you know it in your era, and I mean, obviously, everything from like the '84 Olympics in Los Angeles. How funny that's where we're heading, right? So the '84 Olympics, that with the boycott, with you had Rebecca Twigg and Connie Paraskevin, and then
Connie Carpenter, Finney.
Connie Carpenter winning the first women's road race, Alexi Graywall, and obviously
Yeah,
Steve Bauer and
Alexi,
Davis
yeah.
Finney,
Mhm.
Steve Hegg. You had so many medals, and the harvest was partially because of the boycott, but it was a hometown race, '84, and it was great. And that era went into what Rob and I are
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven and
Yeah.
Hampton and Le Mans, and then all the way into the United Health, just all the domestic racing of the last 15, 20 years, the career you had to the Olympics for 20, 30 years.
It all came from the LA Olympics.
But we're at zero right now.
Yes.
Alarm bells should be ringing. We're at zero. And bike racing,
I don't want to say we're at zero because there have been some people that have been making some efforts, but I think we would all agree that
the next
it's
20
not
years
there.
start here
Yeah.
today at this conversation.
There should be
on
a
episode
hotline.
number 78.
Yeah, there should be a hotline that people can call in, because there's lots of teams that are doing junior development, programs. I'm not even gonna say junior development. There's a lot of
Yeah, the
programs.
Star Track Racing out east. Right?
There's a lot around here too, in Boulder, Colorado.
Boulder Juniors is amazing.
Yeah, there's a number of them, but the thing is,
people know who to call. I mean, people that are in the know. That's the thing. It's that knowledge thing. If people are in the know, they know who to call, and they know. And it comes down to who likes who and who's going to listen to what information.
Yeah, but even in this day and age, if you don't know who to call, you can find it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a hotline for doping. At least we got that going
That's my
for
point.
us.
Like, you can rat someone out for doping from a group ride, but you can't identify talent through group ride by calling someone
that's pretty astute.
or knowing somebody.
Before we get away from it, I did want to get back to the whole just the numbers kind of thing. To throw it out there, I don't remember the exact racer
28,650
or the exact racer or the exact situation, but I remember when I was reading about something along these lines a while back, and there was a pro tour rider who does fairly well, and their FTP was like 220, 230, something like that.
Watch it.
And it was, and it's just because that individual knew how to race well, knew where to be,
Keep it coming.
and did really well when it mattered. And it was that kind of information that made me go, at the time I was like, hey, I might have a chance of,
I was the worst
not getting
rider. I
dropped
was the
every
worst
day.
rider and the best team in the world, and I was like putting out watts that everyone on the internet that was slaying me were like, I could beat that guy. And I'm like, you can, but I'm here and you're there on the internet slinging shit at me.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You have talent. I'm not saying
I do have talent, Rob.
Lots of talent.
Lots of talent.
Lots of talent. All right.
I like to talk at bike races and talk to juniors and say their name on the microphone so that they get excited. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part because the
It's
kids
all about
at the
the
races,
positive.
they hear their name and they want to come back next week. I'm doing my part. There's 20 or 30 kids that love cycling, and I think I contributed to that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
there's no question about it.
And I know Mike's doing his part right now.
The positive feedback.
Speaking of which,
we know it.
Mike is doing his part.
Big
He's
time.
doing
Big time.
for those that aren't aware or haven't heard about it before, but we all know.
Can we talk about you, Mike? Is it okay?
Pedaling
Are you comfortable with
bikes.
this? Are you,
Oh,
are you
pedaling
comfortable with
minds.
this?
Pedaling minds. Sorry.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it.
We've
Robin, I
talked
just
about it,
tried
but
to-
we do have to take a 5-second thing every now and then to say, if you believe in the mission that Mike is putting on, you need to go and donate some money. And they do that exactly how again, Mike?
Well, we teach people how to ride bikes with control. I don't necessarily care.
How do they donate money to
How would
you?
they donate
Oh,
money
right,
today?
right, right. Well, you can go to
Today.
pedalingminds.org. You can click on the donate button, or you can go to coloradogives.org and search Pedaling Minds and donate that way. That's a website that verifies all the paperwork to make sure we're legit and have everything dialed.
Can I do a donation as small as $30 today? Would that be okay?
You can do it as low as 30 cents.
I'll do $30.
30 cents I may have, so we may have to talk.
I'll do $30 this afternoon.
So if you're listening to this and any of this is striking a chord with you in any way, shape, or form, put your money where your mind is and support programs that are actually reaching out and doing good things, like Pedaling Minds.
And if you need,
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, we are doing good work. We are doing good work, and we are putting the money where we say we're putting the money. So, I am not so much focused on racing as I am just getting people on bikes. I want people to ride their bikes, and that, has a whole host of other problems, which maybe we'll touch on the next podcast about helmet safety and what constitutes safety on your bicycle. But
we do need to talk about that.
that's going to be an extensive conversation. Right?
yeah,
that's why it's going to be an entire podcast on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but moving on from some of that, we had a little bit of news this week. I do want to drop the fact that Giant in Europe,
In the
UK, announced that they are going consumer direct. So there's another one that fell. We all know it's happening. It's just a matter of where they're going. So, last month it was they can't pay their bills or they're wanting to push their bills out. Now this month, a division of Giant is going consumer direct. Keep in mind, Giant USA is a completely different organization than Giant UK, but it's a ringing bell for what may or may not come down the pike.
But it would be incorrect to say that this is huge news because it's not. It's giant news.
It's Giant news. It is Giant news.
This would have been great opportunity for the club horn
Where's your
button.
sound effect? You don't have your sound effect ready.
No, I thought
Mike, we're hacks out here.
In addition to that, one other thing that did hit the news that I wanted to talk about was the fact that we've touched on Classified. That would be the hub system that has basically a 2-gear shift in it wirelessly. We've talked about it before. We think it's a great product. We've never ridden it. We don't have one. I would love to be a dealer for them, but it looks like right now they are focusing on strategizing on larger brands. One of them we work with, Boyd. And they are named
sounds
as
like a
one of the-
Sturmy Archer. Just sounds like a new redo on a Sturmy Archer.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I'll put a Sturmy Archer on and we'll put one of these on and you tell me which one is better.
I could win on anything.
Well, you heard it here.
Right.
All right. So hold on.
I grew up racing with
Record
Boyd,
that.
Rob. That was my guy that I used to travel with to all the races.
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
See, it's all in who you know.
No, I remember meeting when I met your mom and stepfather. He goes, "Hey, if it isn't our second favorite wheel builder," and I was like, "Man, you gotta." And he's like,
did
"You
they
don't
actually say
understand."
that? Did they even know?
Yes.
I don't even think they knew Boyd was a wheel builder. They probably didn't know you were. Well, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was told to me almost immediately, and it was.
I'm sorry. That's sad. I mean,
no. And he goes, you got to understand, Boyd was in our living room growing up, delivering pizzas and stuff, so it's like, yeah, no, I get it. That's this thing in this culture, in this industry, in this market, that we're this weird twined, intertangled little group because it's a small community. We all know each other in some way, shape, or form. That's why if you're new to the industry, don't burn your bridges. Wait until you're my age, then burn them all. Apart from that, so we had an investment in Classified this week by Nick Evans, who is an individual who invested. What do you invest?
10 million.
Well, this time, but what do you do with Rafa back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we have those numbers.
I don't have the numbers on it, but
He was the
Rafa
CEO
was
at one point.
Small as he came in as the CEO when it was really small, like 5 people or whatever, and built Rafa,
Invested in them
invested in them, yeah.
and helped build the
Chairman,
Rafa as a brand.
right? And still is to this day.
Still works with them
Right.
after the buyout with Walmart.
So you're saying
Right.
you could have bought in at Rafa when it was just 5 people, and we're podcast right here.
I
with
was
5
too busy
today.
making
you can
fun
buy
of
in,
Rafa.
You can buy into this podcast right now. If you donate $30 to
Peddling
Minds.
you will be a founding member of what's going to be huge.
Get in on the ground
For
floor.
the next 30 years, we're going to transform cycling in America.
There you go. So I poo-pooed Rafa back then. I still do it now. But anyway,
Well, wait, hold on. This is one of my pet peeves, if you
Okay.
don't mind. I adamant about this. I'm going to go right for your throat on this one. All right. So we are so elitist in this sport. If you show up at a training ride on a Walmart or Kmart bike, we laugh you off the stage. We're like, you can't show up in this training with a $200 bike. Get that out of here. It's somebody riding. My first century was on a 63 Schwinn Coppertone Gold, like Continental. I was wearing sweatpants that were cut off at the
wait,
knees.
you're backing up my point here.
No. I did the Harman 185 when I was 13 years old with sweatpants that were red with the 2 Adidas racing stripes on the side cut off above the knees to look like cycling
yeah.
shorts, but I fooled nobody. On a 43-pound Schwinn Coppertone Gold varsity and ate 2 Little Caesar pizzas afterwards because that 100-mile ride was amazing. September of 85.
And that's what Rafa does?
So you show up at a $200 bike at a ride, people laugh at you. But if you pay $12,000 or you are a member of a club and you fly across the country or you wear $600 jerseys, we're going to laugh at you too. So you have to be right in the right sweet spot to be accepted with your shaved legs and your properly priced $200 PSIMET jersey. Because if you show up with a ratty T-shirt like T-shirt guy John, or if you show up with a $400, $600 Rafa with one single stripe or whatever, you're going to get laughed at.
No,
they're on bikes. They're on bikes.
I would argue
Rob, they're on bikes.
I would argue that it's somewhere in between. Here's the deal. To your point, it's the Rafa aesthetic that pushes a whole different narrative that I just don't like. I'm not a fan of it. And it's the elitism.
Okay.
It's all, to me, it's all the negative aspects of the elitism on the roadie side.
Isn't it kind of the artistic,
I guarantee you,
nostalgic look of the like the life of a romantic view of cycling?
I guarantee you, I cannot walk into Rafa and find a single thing that fits me except for maybe a hat.
Fair enough.
You know, and that in and of itself is pretty exclusionary to most of the people that are actually riding. And it's kind of funny that
that's true.
The elitism associated with wearing that gear and being a part of the cycling culture, it became so pervasive that I always joke it became the performance gear that we had, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, where everyone was wearing performance gear because it was easy, you could get it, and it was, you know, whatever. It was just everyone's riding with performance stuff on. Now everyone's riding with Rafa stuff on. It's the same thing to me. It looks the same. When you roll up wearing the Rafa stuff, to me, you look like the guy that is just wearing the century cut, you know, jersey that said performance on it. Right. You know, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't really care. I'll say that I don't care,
right.
But you get my point. No, don't. No,
we're going to pay the Oscars.
No,
for
yeah, no.
You don't want any.
No, we'll end up having some damn copyright problem or something else like that.
Wasn't there something that we were already worried about that was going to be coming down the pipe from some kind of copyright?
Yeah, nobody listening to us anymore because we went on with this crazy tangent.
All right, so he invested $10 million into.
Wasn't it Mike going to get us in hot water with the International Olympic Committee? Leah, what do you know about that?
I know nothing about it. Hey, so $10 million that he's going to be investing into classified as a technology, and he's doing it through his private equity company, Active
Partners.
There you go, Active Partners. And so it's kind of seen as a big add to the whole classified technology and movement, that they're jumping in on this. They're giving it some weight. This is on the heels of a lot of pro racers, ex-pros, putting their money into this technology as well.
Former professionals.
Yeah.
Big names. Tom Boonen. Philip Gilbert.
Wasn't there one or two others?
I only know of those
Okay.
two. I'm sure there are. There could very well be.
Big names, good tech, a lot of money going in behind it. I got to wonder where it's going to end up. Because personally, the way that I understand the technology and see it, I think it's life-changing. I think it's really going to dynamically change our industry. I think we were heading towards internally geared hubs as it was, and this is one that hits the roadie mark dead nut straight.
Only if the cost comes down a lot.
It's
right now,
what is it right now?
It's cost prohibitive.
What's
right
it at now?
I think if you wanted to buy that hub right now today, just the hub, I think it's like $1,300 or something ridiculous.
Okay, you know how many power taps we sold?
Yeah, I know. And maybe with this investment, maybe we're going to see a shift because
I would say as it scales, it's going to come down.
As it scales, it's got to come down because right now
we'll see.
Yeah,
Like
We'll
picture
see.
TVs in the 70s
the
were like
concept,
$1,300.
the technology it sounds amazing. All the reviews of people have ridden with it. It sounds like wow.
Can shift under load, shifts extremely quickly. It
Right.
effectively
So it's
makes
basically
it a
like Tim
2x.
Strelecki.
Yeah, but it's just
Well,
micro
but-
shift.
It's not micro. No.
No. It's 1-to-1, and then it's 1 to
Never miss a
0 is 0.7, right? So it's
Right.
smaller shifting. So that's why it's faster,
Yes.
faster, and that's the only way you're going to get rid of the front derailleur. So is it easy to work on?
No. You've forgotten the front derailleur was killed. Remember?
We're in Chicago.
This is
Yeah, but-
SRAM land.
We're one
Yeah,
by.
but this is isn't that what the whole premises of this is, to make it more aerodynamic? Keep
Yes.
it into the rear hub, so you have all your shifting.
In
Yes.
my opinion, it takes what we've already done. What's been forced on us as being a 1x setup. And what do you think of 1x gearing?
I don't like it perfect at all. I like it for cyclocross,
Because it
obviously.
throws-
Cyclocross, it works.
I don't
Yeah.
even like it for cyclocross. I
You
mean, the 1x, you end up having to have such a huge range cassette with big jumps between the gears.
So this cuts that in half, right?
Yeah.
So, I went back to a 2x for cross, and it's I like it way, way better.
Yeah.
But then you're back to a front derailleur and all that
And all the
again.
problems that it brings.
So this seems to be the best of both worlds. There's a lot of questions, obviously. Like, what's the maintenance on this? What's the serviceability of it? Are there any are there going to be any different options in terms of the gear range, or are you just married to it's going to be 1.0?
This didn't come out of left field. This technology has been developed for a very long
Right.
time, and everything I've seen a lot of technology come and go in this industry over the years, and out of everything that I've seen before, this smells different.
Okay.
It's got all the signs. It's looking the right way, and I got to tell you, from my standpoint, it's a game changer. It is the only technological innovation that I have seen come down the pike in maybe 10, 15 years outside of electric drivetrains that I really give credence to as actually being fundamentally changing of our industry. From one simple standpoint, SRAM went 1x, they doubled down, they tripled down, and now they're like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread.
They tripled down on 1x. I see what you did there. You are clever. You are good.
They think it's
That's good.
the absolute best thing since sliced
Triple
bread.
down on
Those of us
1x.
that have ridden it
I'm
know
paying
that
attention.
it's got some serious drawbacks to it. The only way they're going to pull themselves out of this is if they say, yeah, we were stupid, and go back to 2x across the board, which they're never going to do. They still offer 2x, but they're going to double down, in my opinion, and head this direction. If they don't currently own the technology, which they don't, they built where they are today by buying everybody up. I don't understand how
every single
remotely they aren't courting classified. They have to be. If they're not, they're missing the opportunity. I will say, in the list of wheel companies that it threw out there, Zip was not present. So,
without riding one, there's no way to know what it feels like, what it rides like. We could speculate all day long, but until you ride one, it's hard to know.
you know what? If you're associated with classified, send one to this group in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
and we
we'll
will
definitely
build it
do a
up into
review on a
something.
podcast in the near future. Episode number 83 can be
I'll
reserved
spend-
for you right now.
I'll spend 2 episodes talking about
83
it.
and
nonstop.
84 going once.
So
Good try, boys.
It can't hurt. The
No.
mailing address is PSIMET World Headquarters in Illinois.
on
PSIMET,
on that
PSI.
note-
Send it to us.
PSIMET.
USPS priority mail.
always choose postal.
Thank you.
So on that note, we're
Mike,
gonna
it's been
bring
really
this
fun to
one
podcast
a
with you, man.
close.
It's nice to see you. You look
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
Good
thanks,
job on
man.
the weight loss. Good luck in your upcoming pinning a number on. You're going to pin a number on. Have fun.
It's
And,
more about
I'll
the
get
health.
you.
Yeah,
I'll get you $30 in about an hour or two.
dude, no stress, dude, no stress.
It's,
Yeah,
you don't.
And I
realize-
challenge anybody who listens to this podcast that likes what we do. I challenge you to donate at least $5 or $10 to.
peddling.
Peddling minds.
.org.
So
Well,
we're hitting our strides here.
yeah, no. So that's definitely throw the money out there. Keep in mind if you have any feedback on the podcast, we always love to hear it.
No, we don't.
Please
No,
go.
That's not true.
Please
You
go.
were reading that one comment last week, and your face was red.
I'll tell you.
No, we don't. Love,
Email it.
He's putting on a nice face.
Email it to roadisdead@gmail.com. That's all one word, roadisdead@gmail.com.
If you don't like it, just go to another podcast.
In addition, please like the podcast and whatever podcast server that you're using.
Subscribe.
Please subscribe, leave a rating and or a review, and then
Please share with your friends.
if you watch the video version or know somebody that might, please go out to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Like, comment, share, whatever. We could use it all.
Allow us to create a better experience. For
Any
you.
closing thoughts here? Wrapping it around, Mike?
Cut out sugar. You'll see massive differences.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to jump on that.
Increase physical activity. You see massive differences.
Hydrate. You'll see massive
Hydrate.
differences. Yeah.
That I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Just ride through it all right, Tim.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I appreciate it. And thanks for listening to this episode of the Road is Dead podcast. From all of us, goodbye and enjoy the ride.
See you next
Have
time.
a great day. See you later.
Thanks, Mike.